morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Karen Rice, and it indeed is my pleasure on this first day of November in the year 2020 to be sitting in this chair. And I'm especially excited to be sitting in the chair today because in 2 weeks, I will not be sitting in the chair anymore because we will be reopening. So your board of trustees and your ministers have all collaborated, and we are really happy to announce that we will be rejoining again in the sanctuary of the West Valley Center in a community gathering again, and it won't look quite the same as it used to because we are going to do a very good job of social distancing, and we'll have requirements such as masks, and we're going to take temperatures at the door. But right now we have revamped the entire sanctuary so that it is ready for your return on November the 15th. And so yes, it is my very good pleasure to be sitting down today, and I'm going to sit down next week, and then the week after that I'm putting on some high heels and I'm going to stand on this platform in great joy to just be able to have music again, and practitioners praying us in, and a few of you sprinkled through the community. So I'll give you more details at the end of the message, but for now I want to say you do need to reserve a place if you want to join us because we have limited space. So all the details are on the website, but I'll speak to it a little bit at the end of the message as well. So before I dive in, I do want to take a moment to simply breathe. Oh, I just love that sacred pause where we turn within and realize again that indwelling presence, the infinite wisdom of the universe, that which I call God, is right here, right now. And it is that connecting force that has allowed us to join over these months of being separated physically, and yet we have maintained that gorgeous oneness that is indivisible. And so I am grateful for that. I bless this time, this service. I let it be, and together we say, and so it is. Amen, amen. Well, it's been an exciting week. It's been exhilarating because there is so much going on in terms of preparation for reopening. But we have also now officially stepped into the holiday season. And what happens for us in November, not only do we have such an immense opportunity to focus on gratitude, but here in the West Valley, at this particular center, November is our stewardship month. So because we're reopening on the 15th, we made a ministerial decision to also begin the formal stewardship program, Seeding Our Future, which for me is so tender and touching, more important than ever before. What a gorgeous name for our program, Seeding Our Future. And we'll begin that, the kickoff for that will be on November the 15th, and then it'll spill into December a little bit. We're going to do a big mass mailing. A remarkable donor has done something really sweet for us, and that is he has donated the funding so that we can send with your packet that will come to your home this year. We will be enclosing an envelope that's actually got postage on it, thanks to our donor. And that way, whether you're choosing to stay at home or you're wanting to be here in your physical presence, you will be able to return your card so that we can really get our committed giving program off to a healthy start. So the theme I chose when I believed that this would be our first day of the stewardship program is actually the theme I created almost a year ago in that intention for us to play in stewardship. And the theme is the title of the message this morning, Letting Life Expand. And that's actually a chapter subheading in that wonderful book I've been speaking about all year, Dr. Ernest Holmes' A New Design for Living. I've used that book for my Sunday morning message themes all year. And letting life expand are three gorgeous words to stream together. Because for what I understand now, especially because of what this year has created for us in terms of experience, is that it's still, no matter what's going on in our lives, no matter what conditions we are living and moving through, it's still up to us to let life be greater and bigger than what we had imagined the day before. That's a part of this teaching and this philosophy. And in fact, there's a place in the Science of Mind textbook where Ernest Holmes says, let is a small word. L-E-T, he spells it out. L-E-T, it's a small word, but it's so important for us to begin to understand the idea of what it means to let life expand. Life desires to expand, and life is always expanding. And our position in relationship to the spiritual laws of the universe is to allow that, to encourage it, and even to participate in it. And that's what Sunday mornings and spiritual classwork is all about, learning the details, the ins and the outs of that. So I wanted to begin this morning with a story that is something I want you to try and make it relatable in your own life. And I think it's a good it's a good beginning, because I think it represents the way all of us start the path of life, and then we get more intentional and we begin to refer to our path as a spiritual path. It has been all along, but at some point we begin to recognize that whether you're spiritual or religious or not doesn't matter, but we begin to understand there's some inner deep truth that we are here to reveal in our livingness. And so I have a story that's kind of one of my awakening stories of when I was a young woman. So back in the 70s, I hadn't been married more than 5 or 6 years at the time of this story. I had 2 little girls that were just the love of my life. And they were babies. They were one was probably an infant and one was a toddler. And we had a change in our income. So my husband, my gorgeous, wonderful, hunky husband, was in cable TV. So you can make all the jokes about the cable guy you want. My husband was the cable guy. And he was really good at what he did. And at that time, in the 70s, cable guys were like gods, because they were delivering TV to people who couldn't get it if they lived too close to the mountains in Southern California. So he was really well respected. And I love that he started his profession with it was just a job, you know. He was digging ditches in the early days and putting cable underground, and then he learned how to climb, and he was able to learn the mechanics, and he became a chief tech, and he eventually worked himself into the engineering side of what came in time to be satellite and just all those other worlds of communication that began in the cable TV realm. So in those early days, we were like most young married couples, sort of hand to mouth, you know, I knew how to shop well and make meat stretch, you know, and live on a budget. And we did that really well. And I have really fun memories. But Hugh had an opportunity at some point where he had a friend of a friend that owned, I think it was a mobile home park. And the guy wanted cable TV in the mobile home park, but the local cable company wasn't able to help him. So somehow they found Hugh, and they said, look, you've got the smarts, you could design it and you could build it, and we'll pay you really well if you do this. So it became a weekend job that increased our income considerably. All right, so now imagine or remember in your own life the first time you had an experience like this. Suddenly we have all this, what now I would call disposable income. I don't think we used that term back in the 70s yet, but now we had a lot more money than we used to have. So one day I have this very distinct memory because of the lesson that it brought me. I went to Gemco. I took my 2 little baby girls and I went to Gemco. Remember Gemco? It was the first of the buy the membership card. Except if I'm not mistaken, it was like $1 to buy the Gemco card. And it certainly wasn't like the big warehouse shopping that we do now, but it was the beginning of that. And I went to Gemco because it was like a big department store and there were all kinds of things I needed. You figure now you've been married 5 or 6 years, so all of your wedding gifts are getting old, you know? And so I went and it was so fun. I never realized what it would be like to just walk into a department store and buy new bed linens. You know, I remember getting new bath towels and I bought things that I never would have intended to buy otherwise. One of the things that makes my heart tender even remembering is that I bought these bright yellow kitchen curtains that just brought me great joy. And I bought things like sofa pillows, and I'm pretty sure I probably spent some money on the kids too, clothes and maybe some toys. I don't know. But here's the deal. It was a lot of stuff. I can honestly say I had never had a shopping spree in my life like that. So I bring the stuff home, and I unload the car and I throw it all in the living room floor. So there's this mountain of new things. And I went in the kitchen and I got some scissors and I start cutting open all the packaging and shaking out the sheets and cutting the tags off the towels and all of that. And it was very fun. It was really exciting. And it was all my new household stuff that I chose for myself. And it was great. Then something interrupted me. I would imagine with 2 little babies, I probably stopped to take care of the kids, make lunch or something. So I cleaned up all the trash and took that and threw that all away and took care of whatever the needs were in the other room. And so it was maybe an hour later, and I returned to the living room where now the stuff was all stacked neatly in piles, ready for me to put it away. And I'm telling you, I have such a distinct recall that when I walked around the corner and I looked at all my loot, suddenly the pile looked much smaller than I remembered. And there was a little wave. It's almost embarrassing to say this out loud, but there was this little wave of disappointment. And it wasn't like buyer's remorse because it was all stuff I needed and it wasn't frivolous but it was disappointment because it was a moment of looking at all the loot and saying, is that all there is? You know, an hour ago, it really felt like it was a lot more than it is. And the reason I'm telling that story is because I believe, because I remember it so well, I believe that experience and that exact, getting that insight and catching myself having the thought was a moment of holiness. That it was like one of those existential shifts that redirected my life in a new way. And you know what it really was? It was a pause of disappointment that became a spaciousness to have the thought, is that all there is? And to reevaluate why I was feeling that way. So in the disappointment, there was a teaching element there. There was a glimpse. I did not understand it this way when it happened, but there is a glimpse in those moments of something internal. So there's an internal desire. The desire looks like, ooh, money, let's go spend some. I have a long list of things we need. It looks like that. And it looks like I'm going to be satisfied with new bed linens and new kitchen curtains and throw pillows on the sofa that were kind of frivolous. But the desire is deeper. The part of life that wants to expand is connected to that desire, but the path of life is what we do as we move through our experiences and begin to pay attention to what fulfills us and what doesn't. And I want to say to you that I think that was a holy moment for this person because I recognized, oh, stuff doesn't make me happy. the way family makes me happy, or stuff doesn't make me happy the way my health makes me happy. And there begins to be an understanding of those desires that are divine, God-given desires within us that we often try and fulfill through things, which is not to minimize that we need things and that there's beauty in that ability to be able to go to the store like that and purchase them. But it was a waking up of something greater. I like to think it was me beginning to embody a new understanding and a higher perspective of the way life works. And that is to say that life is calling us, life was calling me in that moment to say, yes, you can have all this, and there is more. There's always more. Because life is always that upward spiral, expanding experience. So I found a quotation from Ernest Holmes in the book New Design for Living that excited me. It made me remember that experience, and I want to read you the quote now. It's what inspired the message in its entirety this morning. Holmes said, "Life in all of its fullness, in all of its limitless abundance of all good things, is still there waiting our acceptance." Wow. This thing called life that is inexhaustible in supply of everything we need, that is limitless in its demonstration of abundance, should we be able to see that, to recognize it, is still waiting for us to accept even more good in our lives. And so right now we're living in interesting conditions where we have been sequestered. We have been sort of isolated from each other. And so we have a desire, and the desire looks like freedom. We let us get out from behind the walls of our house, or maybe for some people it's connection. I really need to be sitting in a room with other people. And so we all have a different interpretation. And what it does is it tells us that there's more behind that initial desire, and that we can tap into even a greater experience of receiving it as we practice that art of acceptance. So if we look at our lives, like in the story I just told you, if you look at your own life and you recognize how your consciousness has changed since you were younger, in the way that you moved about the planet and through your own experiences, we can begin to see that life changes us, that that kind of understanding that I described in what's kind of an aha moment. It's like, oh, wow, an hour ago that looked like more stuff. Now it looks like, is that all there is? That kind of wisdom is the way we accumulate the spiritual themes, and we're able to understand the patterns of life unfolding. And it is true for each and every one of us. We all seem to have just a slight variance in the way we, what kind of students we are, how diligent we are at studying and progressing in our understanding of those things. So, dissatisfaction, disappointment, I even use the term embarrassment, that I even could recognize I was embarrassed, that now what seemed like a lot seemed like a little, because we're talking material acquisitions here. This was all useful information because it now points me in a whole different direction, and it expands, it enlarges my capacity to understand life, right? In order to recognize giving and receiving in spiritual terms beyond things. So we all have equal access to that, all of us, regardless of what the family you were born into, the culture you were raised in, the political or the religious influences that were surrounded you as you were growing up. All of us can find good in our lives should we be open to growing, to stretching, to expanding our own consciousness to increase our capacity to see and access the good that's right in front of us. There are spiritual laws in the universe that support this type of growth that I'm talking about, the way that life is always expanding. So, what if, is that all there is? Could be a holy moment. What if that kind of the way we could judge ourselves for having a thought like that, and yet that could be the very thing that opens me to understand. It gives me that glimpse of the intuition inside that is saying, yes, there is more. Yes, there is more possible here. There's a passage in the Course in Miracles. It's very short and to the point that I think of often, especially this week in putting this message together. And the line says, "You do not ask too much of life, but for too little." We don't ask too much. We don't ask for too much. We don't ask for enough. We haven't realized, we haven't dared to imagine, to stretch our imagination to expect life to return more to us. So we open, and then life responds in exact proportion to how much we're able to open. So yes, let life expand. Life is waiting for us to open ourselves and expand in consciousness. When I have a greater capacity to understand life, when I have stretched my consciousness a little bit more, I am more willing to have a higher perspective, and I'm more likely to see life through someone else's eyes, and that's where compassion is born. I can reconcile differences and contradictions with a greater ability. You know, we get keener at doing such things as we practice them more. And we also, I think it increases our ability for gratitude, our capability of appreciating in greater and greater expanded ways. You know, it's been a tough year. It's been this year will be remembered in history, you know, as a challenging year. But I found a fabulous quotation from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and we know that the founder of Science of Mind, this teaching, was greatly influenced by Emerson. Emerson gave us this wisdom: bad times have a scientific value. Think of Emerson writing in the 1800s. Bad times have a scientific value. These are occasions a good learner would not miss. You know, there's something sort of sweet in there that says to me, if I'm a good learner, if I am willing to be a student of life and practice these spiritual tools that we are gifted with, when I am a good learner, then I am thriving when conditions don't look so good. Because that's where the best fodder is. You know, that's where we have to get creative. That's where we hit the wall and we realize we have to start making some choices. Because it is really, it would be so simple to just move through these days feeling the heaviness of victimhood. There are so many things going on in our lives and in the world that could cause us to stay in that bottom kingdom victimhood and lick our wounds and be miserable. But that's not what I'm talking about. Disappointment and hard times, as Emerson says. Emerson actually said bad times. Those are opportunities for us to use our spiritual tools so that we rise out of that kingdom, that lower bottom kingdom, that tribal mentality, into a higher view, posture ourselves into an open, receptive posture, and realize We have choice. You see, there is a power for good in the universe. Boy, we say that a lot, but hear it this way today. There is a power for good in the universe, and it is working for us right now. If I take the words like that and I think about that right now, it's a tough time. But you know what? There is not less good in the world right now than there was a year ago or than there was 10 years ago. It cannot go backwards. There is not less good. And there will not be less good tomorrow. And there will not be less good on Tuesday. And there will not be less good on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or in the future. Because that's not how life works. The fullness of God's grace and God's good is completely given now as always. And the question for me then is, why is it we're not feeling that good? And I want to just bring it right back because we've looked at that pile of stuff on the living room floor symbolically, and we've decided that it's not what we thought it was. So what are you going to do with that? How will you take, if you have the courage to acknowledge your own inner workings right now and how you personally are walking through these last few days before an election and this unstable time of COVID where you're being invited back to church and maybe you're not ready and you don't know what to do and you want to make the right choice, you're going to make the right choice for you. Because no matter what choice you make, life is expanding our good. So you can have it at home, you can have it here, you can have it on Tuesday, you can have it on Wednesday, because your good does not lessen depending on anything that happens in the world. Our perception of our good does change. But each one of us is left alone in this relationship of how much we can expand and how much we can receive. So let life expand. Let good, I want you to really hear this, let good be revealed to you today, tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday, etc., etc., but especially Tuesday and Wednesday. I have been thinking as I wrote all this, I started humming that Ricky Byers song, "Use me, O God. Use me, O God. Concerning the work of my hands, guide me, show me what it is that's mine to do. Use me, O God. I stand for thee, and there I'll abide. I will stand in spiritual truth, in the full goodness that is given me this day. I will stand and I will be open to receive that good, to recognize it and to give thanks for it. And then show me, God, show me what is mine to do and how am I to be when some days I don't know how to be. Some days I don't know how to make a space for God's good to express through me. So show me, God, show me. Isn't that a fabulous thought? That's a good song to be humming around for the next few days. Use me, oh Lord, use me. So by right of consciousness, it's up to each of us individually to call forward as much good as we possibly can. And I would invite you to be very prayerful about that in these next few days. Invite God to use you and let life expand around you. Holmes has another quote in that same section in the book that I'm quoting from today. He says, this is good. Where in the past we have accepted only a little of the abundance of life, we may, should we so choose, we may, through a reversal of our thinking, the reversal of our thought, reverse not the action of the law, but the way we are using the law. That's Such a good quote. Boy, I could hear some amens on that one. So we get in that place where we just have kind of habitual way. We only use the little bit that we're accustomed to having, a little bit of good. But we can reverse our thought. We can change our mind and change our lives, right? Change your mind, reverse your thought. And we are not reversing anything about the law. The law is actively working even right now. And what we're doing is we're changing the way we're using it. So now, go back with me to that quote. There's a power for good in the universe, and we can use it. Now we're going to put in that personal application and see that we really want to be stepping into a bigger vision right now. We want to take everything in our being, everything I have spoken about for this year, for before COVID. We really want to take ownership of creating an image in our mind of the way we are expanding our ability to take in the good, and what does that good look like? Because it's more than acquiring good things, right? It never is as satisfying as it is when you go deeper and you realize the quality of God that desires to express through you. So when we stand in that open posture and say, use me, God, use me, we are opening ourselves so that whatever that desire is that we feel within us, that we are given that power that we need and the courage that we need to allow Spirit itself to just stay open to that good, streaming into this planet, into our own lives through us, so that we are instruments used by the divine. We need a bigger vision, and we need a bigger collective vision, but you and I can't do anything about the collective vision. Believe me, I think about that a lot. I get stuck in thinking I could, if only I was a little bit better as a minister, if I could just be a little more effective, I could change more lives. But you know what the bottom line is? Me and you and all of us can only do ourselves. So are you willing to do you? Are you willing to stand up and sing that song? Use me, O Lord. God, use me. Show me what it is I am to do and how you would like to express love through me, or how you would love to express peace of mind through me, or compassion and caring, and set down my judgments, and to forgive myself and to forgive others. How will you be an instrument for God? We need a bigger vision, because it is written that the great teacher Jesus said, without vision, the people perish. And I think that's what's happened in the last 9 months or so. We've been so afraid of everything that we've shriveled up because we've had no vision. We're in this waiting zone. We're in this liminal period while the new hasn't quite taken form so that it can be revealed, but we're all a part of it, step by step. So do what's yours to do. I do believe, you can argue all you want with me on it. I'll never hear a word of it. I do really believe that 99.99999% of humanity desires a world that works for all living beings. I believe that the majority of us, we all want the same thing. We want to feel safe in the world. And, I almost said to feel safe again, but come on, we weren't feeling that safe before COVID hit, right? So now we just have a more intensified way of doing our work and allowing Spirit to use us to let life expand as we are a part of that beautiful equation. So be brave. Be good stewards, not just in Stewardship Month, but let's be good stewards on this planet in allowing God to use us and to shine light, because there's a line in that song that also says that God shines its light through us, through me and through you. And so we want to use this time to do that, to stretch ourselves, to hone our gifts, and just to be as courageous as we can. I know it's scary some days. So I have a beautiful closing quote from a hero from my childhood, one of my mother's favorite heroes, and there was actually a picture of him framed on the wall in my home growing up, right next to President Kennedy and the Pope. There was a picture of John Wayne. So I bring you cowboy wisdom on what to do next. John Wayne said, "Courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway." So that's what I wanted to say today. Those are the things I wanted to get off my chest and share with you, and seed some future images of what it is we desire. Those are sweet dreams, aren't they? So let's think for a moment of what sweet dreams we can desire, what images we can create from the opening we have created in this message this morning. And I will guide us through the words of prayer into anchoring these themes so that they can be revealed in our living as we expand ourselves in this very moment to recognize the presence of God. Just breathe and feel the peace of God in the spaciousness. And now, pulling that peace even deeper, begin to recognize the activity of love at the center of your being. And as I feel that in my own being, I know this is the truth of the core values and the divine characteristics of every human being, for we are made in the image and the likeness of that which created us. And so in this moment, in these holy words of prayer, as we are unified with this truth of our being, I feel that love of God, and I know it is that very instinct that activates a healing force within our bodies, so that there is a movement within us that allows that intelligence, that wisdom in our bodies to heal us, to reveal within us the wholeness and the beauty and the perfection of which we are best complete and vibrant and vital. And so standing renewed and feeling that how we are strengthened by the very knowledge and the remembering of this awareness, the freshness of this truth, that vibrancy now becomes a ripple that moves up beyond our personal being, and it does impact all those around us. It touches this community in such a way that we are indeed good stewards, opening ourselves to stand in a posture that makes us know that we are here to not only seed our future, but to guarantee that the shoulders we have stood upon to arrive at this time in history and in the history of our spiritual community, that we strengthen the roots by knowing that principle is the very fiber that weaves it all together and gives us the strength and the courage to not only move through difficult and challenging days, but to have the courage to know whether or not we are called to be in community or we are called to stay home and to continue watching the Sunday service on our devices, for we are all one. We are all connected. There is nothing that can come between ourselves and that intimate way we are a spiritual community. So I am grateful for this. I feel the way that it stirs emotion within me to imagine a vibrancy in this sanctuary again, and to know that it extends outward, and that this community in the West Valley of Phoenix, Arizona, that we then are a part of the stabilizing force in the days and the weeks to come. So I say thank you, God, for this beautiful lesson, for this reminder, for this way that we can put on our cowboy boots and remember the truth of the fiber we are made of, and we can open ourselves to allow more good, to allow more truth and more wisdom to comfort us in this time of great change. I know we make a difference I am so grateful for that. I say thank you, life. Thank you, infinite spirit. And I release these words into the law, knowing, indeed, it is already done. And so it is. My. First things first, I have my offering and my beloved's offering. Thank you for being so loyal at continuing to get your tithes and gifts to the center. Just a final reminder, you can get on the website. In order to get your reservation, you have to use technology to do that. If that is a difficult endeavor for you, find someone that can help you or do it for you. So don't hold back. Don't let technology be the thing that stops you. But we do have to have reservations because we have 25 available stations for people to sit. We have chairs bunched in 2s and 3s and singles. And once those 25 stations are taken, then we've maxed out what we can have. So if you are coming as a couple, that means one person can register and for both of you, but you have to indicate you're bringing, that your reservation is for 2. It's very easy to follow the directions. Go to the website, wvcsl.com. And once you get to the website, look for the place that says announcements, and then you just scroll through that. Actually, I think it might come right up as soon as you hit announcements, but find it. And we are currently accepting your reservations for November the 15th, and then we will do that on a weekly basis until things change and we can gather in larger, when it's safe to gather in larger numbers. You are required to wear a mask. Thank you for following the rules. No hugging, and no food will be served, unfortunately. And we are taking temperatures at the door, little quick, innocent, and no touching or anything. And I'm pretty excited. So I say with joyous anticipation, I will be seeing some of you soon. And meanwhile, have a very blessed week. Don't take life too serious in the next couple of days. Let God expand and express through you. Mm-hmm.